Jack, welcome back to Behind the Tent. Today's episode is a really good story of mine that I have from back in my early days of being a PI. We're going to call this subject, we're going to call her Virginia Hamilton. Virginia lived in Double Springs, right off of Route Highway 278. And if you know Double Springs, you know there's not much to it. There's one red light, I think. That's it. Not sure. But when I started doing this case, I thought it would be pretty simple, no-brainer. The first day I worked it was October 24th, 2004 at approximately 5 a.m. This was a two-man surveillance. In other words, if you use two investigators on a case, you're likely to get more video of the claimant during that time. You might be able to get video that the other PI can't get, and he might be able to get video that you can't get. So usually in cases like that, we like to team up and we'll put one investigator down on one route of departure and the other investigator going, on the other route of departure. And as soon as we see any activity, we let the other investigator know, and the other investigator will join in on mobile surveillance. First day of this file, we worked it. Me and my colleague, we set up surveillance positions outside, one going into Double Springs and one leaving Double Springs. And the thing is, okay, first off, Virginia Hamilton, she's an older lady. She was supposed to be a vegetable. She was supposed to be in a wheelchair, and she was never gonna walk again. Well, at approximately, I don't know, it was about 8:45, 8:50 a.m., her vehicle leaves her residence. We couldn't see her leave the residence and get into the vehicle because you couldn't see her home from the road because she lived out in the country. And so we did mobile surveillance on her when she left her house, and we followed her into Double Springs. While we were in Double Springs, she is going shopping at, there's like not a shopping mall, because there's not a mall, but it's like what do you call it? A shopping center. And she went in and out of just about every store in the shopping center, walking just fine. She was older, so she kind of walked like an old person, but she was walking just fine. And I got video of her, the other investigator got video of her. We got over 2.5 hours of solid video documentation of Virginia Hamilton. And we got back to my house that night. We were talking about the case, me and the other investigator. We were talking about how this is a slam dunk. There shouldn't be any issues. It's not going to be a problem. So the next day, we were trying to be a little bit more aggressive. And Miss Hamilton, she lives in the country. And there's a bunch of woods next to her property that's just nothing but woods. So the goal was to get video of her up by her house, working outside in her yard, doing stuff like that. So the other investigator, he dropped me off at about 5 o'clock in the morning, a little bit past her house. And what happened was there was another home on the other side of Highway 278. And inside that home was another old couple that lived there. And this old lady that lived in that house saw me jump out of my friend's surveillance vehicle and run up into the woods, because that's what I did. I ran up into the woods and I established a surveillance position in the woods next to her property. I was not on her property. After about, 30 minutes, I'm laying there in my camo in the woods, getting situated, getting comfortable, that type of thing. I was waiting to hear back from the other PI, like, where are you at? What's going on? But I never heard back from him. And then about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes later, all of a sudden I hear dogs barking from a distance. And I'm like, what is going on down by the road? I'm up in the woods. What is going on? And the dogs kept barking and they kept getting louder and louder. And the next thing I knew, there was 2 German Shepherds running towards me in the woods. And I didn't know what to do. I had a stun gun on me. I guess I was going to have to use it. I didn't have my gun on me at the time. I just had the stun gun on me. And these German Shepherds, they came right up to me and I had to stun them. I stunned them both. I knocked them both down. I put them down. Well, about 30 seconds after that, I hear sheriff's deputies running up through the woods, announcing who they are, telling me to put my hands up. The dogs begin to attack me once they come back from their little hibernation they went on when I stunned them with a stun gun. The police immediately arrested me, put me in cuffs, and took me down to one of their Tahoes that was parked off the main road. What had happened was, y'all, is the old couple that lived next door across the street, they saw this man, me, getting out of a car and running up into the woods, so they naturally called the police. We had no idea that there was even anybody in this house that was across the street, and there was no vehicles out there, all the lights were off, but turns out some old woman was in there making biscuits, making her breakfast and coffee at 5 o'clock in the morning. So the cops take us away, and they get us down to the sheriff's station, down to the county jail. And they're talking to us and questioning us and stuff like that. And they were like, what are you doing messing with Virginia Hamilton? She's a vegetable. Don't you know that? Y'all need to just leave her alone. I said, Sheriff, I got over 2.5 hours of video of Virginia Hamilton, excuse me, whatever her name is. I got over 2.5 hours of video of her walking around Double Springs yesterday shopping. And he was like, no, you don't. You sure that's who you got? They're right. Like, sir, I know who my subject is. I've done plenty of pre-surveillance to know who she is. And the sheriff started acting weird. Well, it turns out that one of the sheriffs is also the pastor of Double Springs Baptist Church, which is right down the road from Virginia Hamilton. And he knows her very well. He also knows that she had received a $400,000 check from her insurance company. And she was supposed to be a cripple. She was supposed to be wheelchair bound. Well, he acted weird from that point forward, and he proceeded to start being extremely rude to me and the other investigator. They kept us in jail. They called the company's attorney, or I called the company's attorney, to tell them what had happened. They flew somebody down from Chicago. That's where our corporate office was. It was in Naperville, Chicago. They flew somebody down to get us out of jail and to speak with the sheriff's department. Well, I don't know who they brought down from Chicago, but excuse me. But they got us out, and they specifically instructed us to never come back to Winston County again. Well, surprise, surprise, all these cases that I work, they always eventually go to court. And this one never went to court, and she had to pay back 400 grand. I don't know if she ever did that or not. She was old, but that's what she was instructed to do. But it was a scary case, hitting dogs like that with a stun gun. They were trying to tell me that they tried to originally charge me with attempted murder of a police officer. And I'm like, attempted murder? I said it was a dog. I hit him with a stun gun because I didn't know he was a canine. and then they tried to drop the charge to assault of a police officer instead of murder. What kind of, it was bad. It was really bad. Anyways, all the charges ended up getting dropped completely. 1, we weren't trespassing. 2, we were doing nothing wrong. 3, I had dogs chasing me in the woods. Of course I'm going to hit them with a stun gun. What else am I supposed to do? So, anyways, that was that story. That was a fun case. It was scary though, because when you're working with the police and you're dealing with law enforcement, you want to trust them. You always want to trust the cops. I have a good reputation with some and not such a good reputation with others. It just depends on what kind of mood they happen to be in that day. Anyways, thank you for joining me on another episode of Behind the Tint. And Miss Virginia Hamilton, I hope everybody has a wonderful day.